just a year in the making just to get to this global championship. 3 different majors, so much heartbreak, emotion, and passion going into this moment. And 185-point lead for Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstache. It's going to take everything that these players have just to take them down, let alone steal away that top spot.
It's always going to be a battle of mental fortitude, though, in a 2-day format, Jacob. And with a whole night to review, I'm expecting to see a lot of adaptations. And Pixie already feeling a little bit of pressure. Tags applied from a distance, but this is what it's really all about. Rangers ruin for Noxy. Pablo's already down for Noxy with the sweeper. He's trying to see if he can wrap around, provide a little bit of supportive measures. Atrix is gonna fall. This could be everything right now, but Chino, he's trying to wrap around. Chino knows we might as well just finish this elimination off. We don't want to allow any kind of revive opportunity. 2 eliminations locked in though, with Tayson having fallen to Chicho. Chicho barely standing, but it's all for Noxy, Pablo, and Chino to win it out. Now let's see what they're really about for these end games.
And this time around, versus so many other games, they finished this fight rather quickly, minimizing the chance of any third party coming over. And you know, I know, and I think the world is on notice now. When Ferdoxy is able to get off spawn, he goes on runs.
Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstache. A little bit of rumblings taking place all throughout the course of the early morning hours, and even leading into this morning inside the player practice room, you heard the possibilities. Maybe Queasy gets contested, but that's not going to be the case, at least not for Game 7. Same scenario taking place for Higgs, Iamzo, and Clix. And keep in mind, Jacob, these guys are still well within striking range of top 5.
Yeah, 8th place basically to end the day yesterday, and that's kind of building momentum, building confidence. These guys have all played on the global stage before. They just need to go ahead and channel it. This is day 2, the last chance, 6 games. They just have to leave no regrets left on that table, just like this team here. Contested, uncontested, they made it work no matter what went their way from the Kappa Kappa factory, and now they are just a few big games away from potentially taking a 2nd or even a 1st place spot, depending how Swizzy, Quizzy, and Merstache continue to perform throughout the day.
And while being uncontested is likely ideal for Seti Panzer and Yapko, it does force them to have to revisit where is our search strategy going to come into play. They're not the only ones that have had to take those instances and just rewrite how they want to work it through. Darm Demon's Pix, on the other hand, just lurking, waiting, farming, an epic whale with a dastardly plan.
You said it yourself, lurking, but from one team to another, you're kind of seeing the change up of strategies. Instead of finding out over at Dystopia, it looks like Epic, Paper, and Victor V are ready to make moves. 72 points after day number 1 is a hole that they didn't even expect themselves to be in, especially to start the day. It was Victor V that stopped the momentum from building from Peterbot himself by taking him out in a crucial 1v1 to save Epic Well because he was down.
It actually looks like Epic Well, Paper, and Victor V might have visited that bird a little bit too late. iDrop and co likely already stripped most of the metal here, and it's just the scraps left behind. Paper, Victor V, and Epic, they didn't exactly have the most primed up loadouts, so they've got to be really wary of that team on Shining Span.
Yep, just kind of taking the risk of not being able to get loot early on, try to get a fight to go their way. We'll see if it does continue to work out, but Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual still spinning that wheel, landing at the outskirts, not contesting Dystopia, and quickly moving on over towards Foxy Floodgates. You know that Visuals, Braids, and Aminus typically do land over here. They're already gone position, and that team in front that they're hunting down. But from one side of the map to the next, contested fights still continue. Adapter landing good shots on the pump, forcing him back, and he's kind of separated from the rest of the team. That's going to give Adapter just a little bit of confidence to move on over. But since he doesn't know exactly where all 3 members of this tree are at, it's just a little bit too risky for him to keep that aggression up, as Baka, Pars, and Pump all drop down low to that low ground just to refarm what little materials that they do have.
Problem is, both of these teams are now rather isolated, Jacob. They spent a decent amount of time in this position. way far east of everybody else. So now Adapter, Mansoor, they don't even have any materials. They were trying to pounce on this opportunity, but when the time to elimination isn't wrapped up nice and pretty like what we witnessed between Tayson and Frodoxy, you just get these drawn-out exchanges, and it's not necessarily going to benefit either team because they're both really low on materials. They're so far out of the way compared to everybody else. They still gotta push in eventually, and they're not really going to get a whole lot off of the other party, even if one does win the fight. So Adapter, Mansoor, Balor, they spot it out. They know they can't afford to spend any more time. They need to create some space.
Yeah, and I kind of like what you said, where there's not enough resources as well. And you got to realize, even if they do win this fight, especially Baka, Pars, and Pump, they are missing chunks of shield, a little bit of HP, so Storm Surge is not going to be much, even with that elimination there on the Mansoor. Not sure that he didn't get the memo that the rest of his team already rotated out, but that's a blessing in disguise for Baka, Pars, and Pump. Just a little bit of Surge, but as I was saying, it's not a ton. So their job isn't done yet. They're going to have to be predators in this lobby to try to hunt and figure out where they can start to accumulate that damage, because yesterday that was one of their weaknesses. Just like a few of the teams in this lobby, falling below that damage threshold, you kind of lose control over your own game. You have to push teams in which you normally wouldn't push.
The elimination feed certainly lighting up though with a chunk of Nox, and Boltz loses his shield, but based off of what we just saw inside of this Surge base, don't think that Boltz is all that pressed for it. Pixie, Vanya, Marius just taking their time. These pre-established Surge bases, you have a pretty good idea of where other teams are going to be at, so you know that you're very likely to be able to farm a few Surge tags if you just set up in advance.
Activity still going on this side of the map. It's actually going over back towards that OXR HQ. Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual continuously trying to hunt down Visuals, Braids, and Aminish. But Razzle, Tay-Tay, and Rido, they're also rotating on over from Dystopia City. And this is kind of becoming a cluster of teams trying to take this high ground position outside of the OXR HQ, which I can understand why, but you're seeing Peterbot, Cold, Ritual, and some of the other teams choose, hey, maybe this is not worth it. We still need damage elsewhere, and as long as both teams stay boxed up, there's no opportunity for said damage.
Problems definitely occurred though for Visuals, Braids, and Aminish. Raito, Tay-Tay, they're also fully aware of the fact that Peterbot's team very likely still lurking nearby, so it's not like they're gonna have a smooth exit. But Victor B, Epic Whale, they found themselves a little bit too tangled up here. Reek, Curly, and Cooper certainly have a little bit more priority positioning, but Victor B, he's got to try and hold things down. He wants to provide a little bit of relief towards Epic Whale. They just don't have a whole lot to work with in comparison to Curly, who's just trying to charge, see if he can run Epic down, but Reek now taking the forefront positioning. Reek instead going to be left to fall behind as Epic now scattered, but that's breathing room.
Yeah, and this is just a tough position. Seeing both Victor B and Epic Whale's loadout, they only have bandages, which is really not going to help them in this situation. No extra shields, which means Epic Whale is just one pump away from going down. Victor B and him have to figure it out, but Veno, Flixie, Vico, they're trying to do the same thing. Not necessarily fighting the same off spawn, even with 2 eliminations, quickly rotating away from that Cannon's Crossing and end up in another exchange against one of Asia's finest, Buyuriru and his whole trio. But you can see neither team just kind of going all in, just trying to end the fight quickly. There is a little bit of elevation difference, but that's going to go over to Veno, Flixie, and Vico. So now they have the options, the choices of what to do next.
The key part, though, about Veno, Vico, and Flixie is you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile here. And they know that they applied a good amount of damage against Marim and Buyuriru, so they could be content with the surge that they built up. But knowing those guys, they're definitely out for more. They want at least 1, 2, even 3 eliminations. But Marim, Wixie, they're going to actually get up close and personal, but Wixie bit off more than he could chew. Vico's going to have no problem shutting that one down, and it's Flixie credit for 2, Veno with 1, but a nice cleanup all the way through.
Literally just kind of went for an all-or-nothing play, and just the team's timing wasn't there. Marim got kind of shut down. Buyuriru wasn't able to put down pressure because he had the DMR, but now it's turning around on him. Vico, Flixie, Veno, they're dropping down from above. They know they have a huge numbers advantage, and that's why Vico's playing from the top down, trying to cut off any paths, any escape through toward the top, takes a shot, reassesses the situation, knowing his teammates do have the pressure. It's going to allow him to heal just a little bit. As Brian just getting a good good shot. Buyuriru doing the same thing. Veno's being forced back, but the numbers are just way too much for them to handle. Biko gets the last laugh on the Buyuriru.
If it had been anyone else, might have been a little bit more worried there for Venom, but we knew he still had Flixie and Biko to back him up, no problem. Only 52 HP remains though for Medium, and whether or not Flixie, Venom, Biko decides to stick around, they might realize there's a third party that could easily roll on over, but they found the eliminations they needed to, so now they can just look to cut off Anon in the process.
Yeah. They got that same feeling that you did. Somebody might be pushing over. The fight might have taken way too long, drawn a lot of attention, and yes, it actually has. All the way from across the ocean, OCE from that low side on the map. Storm Surge is going to be one of their biggest worries dropping there if the zone does pull towards the top. They really have to start to figure out a way to take advantage of it. And with two teams here, Biko, Flixie, and Veno, and a solo player that they did leave behind down below, they're just kind of waiting here, getting information. They know Ager's team also lands on this side of the map, so they're trying to figure out where is the easiest possibility to get that damage.
It's just no secret. Anon was very vocal about the fact that he is not a fan of the way Surge has been working zone by zone. Up 1,001, down 300 and another. It's the nature of the game, and it can be brutal at times, but that's exactly why we see them trying to be more proactive, trying to create those aggressive Surge instances. But I'm not sure Veno, Biko, Flixie is the team that you want to take your chances on.
I feel like this is the team right here. Poyo, Agers, and Acorn, 10th place after day number 1. And I feel like the majority of the community had this team in their top 5, in their top 3, possibly winning the entire thing. But now, Acorn, one of the best IGLs, Poyo, one of the best fraggers in the game, and then Ager's the guy that can do it all. They're really going to be tested throughout these 6 games, just like Cammy, Audi, iDrop, haven't left their drop spot, not any bit, but this fight continues to come to them, from Epic Whale's team to Tay-Tay's team. They're all just trying to get as much Storm Surge's damage because they know that's the kind of currency, that's the flexibility that allows you to rotate early when the zone pulls towards the north. That's something you can focus on versus everybody else.
But these kind of scrappy box fights are exactly where Asia tends to shine, and that's why we see a little bit of reservation there from iDrop, Cammy, and Hottie. They know what kind of position they're currently holding on the leaderboard. They don't want to give it up. Poyo, Agers, and Acorn, though, they just continue to take advantage of all the objectives surrounding them, even if they have to make some earlier rotates. We saw how difficult their day 1 started out, but by the end of it, we started to see that little bit of a bounce back factor, Jacob, and now with the whole night to actually hit the VODs, I'm so certain that Acorn has definitely cooked up something.
Yeah, in this game round, they did actually get the medallion that lands at Demon's Debris. They have the Mythic, and because of that, they have the A rank, which unlocked that vault, and they have the exotic as well. The Wrecker Revolver that shoots faster with every hit fire, so that's something that we're really gonna have to watch out for, especially if they're looking for a comeback today through eliminations. Savage Chat, Reason trying to do the same thing, slow to rotate on out. They're prioritizing getting Storm Surge. A lot of these teams that are slow to rotate, those are the ones that are making the focus on this fight.
This is a big turnaround right now, though. It's only Cammy and iDrop left to duke it out up against some of Asia finest, but they're going for the double revive. It's a little bit greedy, but Tay-Tay, he's actually the only healthy member. They're gonna opt for possibly trading out revives, but no, Tay-Tay recognizing I'm just too far away. Crash pad out, going for the escape, but iDrop and Cammy aren't gonna be able to give pursuit, at least not right away, but there's nowhere left for him to run. Tay-Tay, he's just gonna have to full-on bail.
And sometimes you just they don't get a choice. They're trying to just bring all the loot back into their box. They know other teams potentially nearby, but Adi's the one that really kind of opened up that opportunity, gets the knock, and the rest of the team was there. And that's a confidence-boosting feeling, knowing your entire team has your back. You can make a move, sometimes without even out saying anything. Clix, Higgs, and Yamzo kind of, I wouldn't say changing up their overall strategy, but all 3 of them as a team, they land towards those RBs just outside of the Supernova Academy. They get as much of that brick as possible, which kind of maxes out for the most part, and then they go and loot Supernova Academy. try to get all the loot. I know everybody hears the crowd roaring right now. Swizzy, Mustache, and Queasy, business as usual, getting their early game Storm Surge, getting their early game rank ups, and then accessing the ball.
And the main thing to take note of here, Jacob, is that these guys aren't changing anything. Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache are running this back as if we're still in day one, despite it being game 7. And if nobody's going to force them to change their strategy, it's hard to believe that Queasy won't end up taking over height later on.
Definitely a possibility there in first. They don't have to change up anything because nobody even looked up yesterday. But Cooper and Curly find themselves in a peculiar situation. 2v3 versus the NA West champs, Baka Pars and Pump. But Curly's doing a good job of holding down his walls, holding down his defensive and fighting back, forcing the Flowberry Fizz out on the other side. The triple hill is going to get him back into action that much quicker. But they're just at the edge of zone with not far to rotate before they make their way in. That's going to give the luxury to stay a little bit longer, but a massive haymaker onto Pars. That's going to slow things down just a little bit and continue to build the confidence for Cooper and Curly.
Cooper and Curly are really having their mettle tested this weekend. It's so unfortunate that they had to leave Reap behind, but they are still a powerful duo that can definitely pop off with a strong performance here. One singular clutch could be all the momentum shift that they need. Cooper has been here so many times before, Jacob, and he knows that they've got to try and capitalize, but they have no idea what kind of duo is crouch lurking behind them. Balor and Adapter, they've also encountered some early struggles, losing Mansoda since he didn't get the memo. And Adapter, Balor, they don't even get the chance. They thought they were gonna get the jump on Cooper and Curly, but instead it's been 180.
They're almost 500 damage below the threshold. Cooper Curly, they don't see if it activates. They won't be able to get that visual, but they will hear the shields crack if it does come down to it. But they're just kind of hunkered down below, biding their time as much as possible. Time that they may not necessarily have. They have extra shields in their loadout, but they don't have any extra HP heals. Sooner or later, they might be pushed into a situation where they have to get eliminations, especially now that a whole nother duo starts to make their way in. That's Tay-Tay and his teammate, but up goes Cooper without no HP. Exactly what I said, they have to go for eliminations, but Valor, he's at least gonna be able to steal away one. That's one less chance, but Storm Surge activates, making it just a little bit easier as Cooper and Curly have to go, and they have to go now. It's a 2-tick. They're on the clock. If a Cooper does it, he dunks on him from above to get the siphon.
But the same can't be said for Curly. He has no siphon to profit off of just yet. They're going to have to find another elimination. They're going to have to find it now. Adapter has fallen. Cooper and Curly just continuing to make something out of nothing here. But Balor, that surge tick is just destroying him. The shield crack goes up yet again. He's using every single bit of healing resources he has, and it's still likely not going to be enough.
Yeah, like I said, the shield's cracked. That's a giveaway for Curly and Cooper, and immediately turn around, tried to land shots. Valor's doing just that, and he barely gets himself above that damage threshold, and he knows he cannot go back for his teammates' reboots card. This is a solo journey from here on out for him, and he does some good damage yet again. Will he pick up the elimination? We'll wait and see, but Pixie, Vanya, and Marius, you can see the zone just outside of OXR HQ. These guys have been smooth sailing so far in this game.
Marius and Pixie being the top 2 players for shotgun damage and moving zone says enough, Jacob. These guys have been getting fraggy, and they plan to continue their streak, especially with all the company that's starting to dogpile around them.
Like you saw in the distance, Baka and I believe Pars both going down, looking to get cleaned up by Chap, Savage, and Reason. 410 damage above the threshold. Slap dab in the middle of the zone as well. Cold, Ritual, and Peterbot. I was talking to them before today. They didn't have too many game plans other than just play better. They know their performance yesterday was abysmal, and that's just a huge fire underneath their belt to do just that and have a good comeback. And Chino's just fighting on the other side. That's Anon all the way from OCE, but his teammates are coming in. Backup has arrived. Chino's just getting pushed back further and further. Resign's starting to feel that confidence, but there's too many players all around for Doxy. Surprising Resign's catching him off guard. Multiple players trying to push in, but for Doxy making sure to save the day. Down goes Resign's, and up goes their chances to win this fight.
Just look at the way that Ferdoxy and Chino played this box fight, though. So many separate angles opened up at once. Resign's HP just disappeared. Ferdoxy and Chino still looking to try and hold things down too here, Jacob. They're fully aware of the fact that they've done enough to at least push Oshi back temporarily, but that's not to say that it has had the same effect on the Polish counterparts directly next to where they're located.
They do have that extra med kit down below, just in case. Renan, Alex, they're trying to come back for revenge. Chino's gonna be the first one to go down. Well-placed shot by Alex. He had all the power behind that one, forcing Ferdoxy to try to back up and get the revive. The audio visual is coming out. Ferdoxy trying to reposition. He has to let the cone go. He has to let his teammate go down. That one's quickly cleaned up, but that doesn't mean he has to stop fighting back. With 2 versus 1 in this situation, and him being slightly on the edge of zone, if not out, he has to start getting information that is vital to his success. And even one more team going down, he'll start to get placement points on top.
Problem as a solo, though, is that there's only so many directions you can look at once, and overhead, Swizzy, Merstash, Queasy, they're already starting to break through. You saw that first knock take place right now for Swizzy, and he's still after another Ritual and Peterbot. They don't even realize they're being shot from underneath, but it's actually Spinx who's taking down Peterbot in this lobby. Shadow from behind, never sees it coming. Swizzy's got that elimination, and Muzz trying to save his teammate's life, but can the double revive actually come to fruition with Swizzy applying so much pressure?
Yeah, multiple players, and he has that exotic, which is so much damage, just tearing through those builds. But you can see as Sony was his own, hold on over, they kind of brought themselves back. Probably Queasy making the call. We have to start to rotate. This zone is vital for our success. If we can get high ground here, that could be our 4th game win. But while one team's having an easy game, Iamzo and Clix, with one of them being down, Iamzo's trying to get him back up. They have 1 crash pad left in their inventory, 6 splashes for the HP if they need it, some Flowberry Fizz, but it is a far pull for a duo to have.
A little bit sad there for Merstash. He really wanted to see if he could get a good chunk out of Acorn, Agers, and Poyo on that rotate, but crash pads are out, along with the Flowberry Fizz. Iamzo's immediately going to try to claim a position towards the front side, but holds back for a second here. A little bit split from Clix. Clix going to build right back up where his teammate's at. He needs some of these chuck splashes, but of course, another rotate. There is no time to stop, especially with Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash right back at home base on the high ground.
That happened so fast, you blink, you might have missed it, because now there's a whole nother team on top. They're getting battled out, chopped down even once, but the consistency for them to remain in the clouds is absolutely amazing. Swizzy, Merstash, and Queasy making it look easy down below. Everybody is at their disposal, and this is where we know what they do. They just target out second height over and over and over. They reconnect along the way, so teams are going to have to think of something different here compared to yesterday.
Savage Chef and Reason seem like they're a little bit more intent on just trying to stake out these front side rotations, but for Clix and Iamzo, it's likely going to be a backside of zone play. They're going to have to find a refresh. They have hardly any materials to work with. Iamzo doing what he can to drop whatever builds he can for Clix, but there's nowhere safe to tarp out through inside of these lower layers. Everybody is frazzled here. Yapko, Panther, and Seti also in a very strong top 3 position, and they want to hold on to it, Jacob.
They don't want to let it go. They worked way too hard to get this far. To go down here in 15th place. Storm Surge still active, forcing players to fight one another. Even though they have to rotate to the zone, they're trying to keep their 3rd place spot intact. They're only 8 points behind as we stand in this game, but Merstash, Swizzy, and Queasy are just double tarping, making sure to reinforce the Veno. Their two are trying to look up. At one point or another, maybe 2 zones ago, they were the team on high ground, but it got stolen away. Up goes Acorn! They're ready to battle it out! M8 versus M8 as Poyo's ready to take on the competition, but towards the backside of zone, they chop it all down. Queasy, he saw that one coming from a mile away.
That's exactly why they had Merstash overhead, still looking to try and build things out here, but Swizzy blocking off Acorn so professionally. Everybody's been chopped up. They're all falling down. Agers has been eliminated. Poyo and Acorn trying to go right back up on the height, but it's Malabuka, it's Lux, it's Ping. They're the ones that have fully overthrown the high ground. They're the ones that are ready to find their first victory royale.
Merstash Queasy still has a duo, but they're still holding that first place spot. Kanata is going to go down. Only 3 of the teams in our top 5 still alive. Mustache, Queasy, they're trying to be heroes, but Queasy not only takes a big shot, he loses Swizzy across the way. Mustache has to figure out a way to reunite into the same box. They do that very, very quickly, but it's not going to matter. Queasy goes down. Mustache gets the elimination, but he's all by himself.
The family sacrifice might have been everything that they needed, though. Mustache tarping like a madman, just trying to block off every possible angle. He knows there might be an opening, a teammate underneath that's just so much worse off than he currently is. But instead, it's both Kanata and Rapid. He's looking to play spoiler, but he can't get enough damage applied. Mustache still, somehow, some way, tarping through this middle layer, and nobody seems to be cutting him off just yet, but he's running out of material, and Malibuca watched him overhead. They've lost Ping. Ping thought that he could take out Darm in the process. Instead, he loses his own life.
Somehow, Rapid, Kanata, Bolts all still alive on the low ground. Even with Bolts going down, they got the front side of zone and a chance to get the revive. A couple eliminations being cleaned up. Vico trying to stay alive. Malibuca and Walk still on high ground, raining fire down from above. They get that knock on the Kanata, and you see the Flowberry Fizz coming out. They're getting ready. The inevitability, the drop down from above, it comes in. Kanata gets cleaned up. The Siphon comes into play. Walks is doing damage. Malibuca is causing pain.
Walks and Malibuca, they might just be able to do it, Chap. Not going to be able to withstand the pressure here. Malibuca with a huge cleanup shot. Walks now just needs to seal this one out. And just like that, Malibuca and Walks, they take down Pixie. And that's going to be the first victory royale here in Game 7.
A night and day difference when it comes to how these end games played out. Yesterday, not a single team looked up. Today, 1, 2, 3 or more teams try to fight for it, and it's Malibuca, Walks, and Pings that took it all, Frankie.